Good morning, good morning, good morning, and welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you guys for joining me. Thank you for coming back to Daring Dialogues. This is episode 26. Good morning. I hope that you guys enjoyed a little bit of my weekend. Those of you who didn't catch those clips, you can catch them only on Periscope. Unfortunately, YouTube, my YouTube audience. But that was one of my fellow co-laborers, but also one of my fellow clients who was releasing and launching her third book. So we got a chance to go out yesterday and celebrate that success. Cool. Yeah, so she was doing her book launch, and it was like outside. Well, it was an indoor-outdoor kind of event, and it was right next to some train tracks in Virginia. And so you could literally hear the Amtrak coming right past the building on some of the pieces. But it was a very, very nice atmosphere, very laid back. It was a Black-owned business, Girani Coffee House in Manassas, Virginia. So if you're ever in that area, please make sure that you support them. That's Jirani. And she was launching her book. She had some worship music going, and she also did some read alouds, and also she did Q&A. So that's the part that my husband and I were able to come in on and participate. So it was just a wonderful, wonderful weekend. I hope that everybody had a great weekend, and we are back with Monday motivation, and we're also back with giving you some brief encouragement from our book, Pathfinders. Pathfinders, the journeys of 16 extraordinary Black souls. So we're going to start there. And it never fails. Listen, it never fails for me to go live and for everyone to start calling me and messaging me right at 11 o'clock. I think I'm going to put out a public service announcement. Do not contact me between 11 a.m. and 12 p.m. Yes, I think I'm going to do that. So, and we're also going to be in our book today, Detours. And we're going to be talking about the plan of detours. The plan of detours. So, exciting times today. Exciting times. Well, it is a holiday for some. Some people are off on President's Day, and some people are working. But I saw this in the news. I'm not sure if you've heard of it. If you've heard it, but because it's in the Virginia area, it is a big deal. Charlottesville, Virginia, the home of one of our presidents, Monticello, is going through a renovation, and what they're renovating is going to be the former quarters of, quote unquote, I believe, Jefferson's mistress, Sally Hemings. Many movies, of course, have been done about their relationship. And for all intents and purposes, if we're going to be historically accurate, it wasn't really a relationship. She wasn't really his mistress. If you do the history on her, she was actually given to him almost as an inheritance piece, because they passed slaves on, and so she was given to his family or him at about age 12 or 14, somewhere in between there, and he basically groomed her to be the person that he would be sleeping with. And he had 6 children from her. So we're not going to romanticize like some programs have done. We're not going to romanticize their relationship. There is no writings from her. And so we don't know her part and how she felt about this person that she was sleeping with and had 6 kids from. Yeah. So... But the interesting thing is, for many, many years, that people who would travel through this presidential home, Monticello, they would hear very little about his involvement with her and the children that came out of that relationship. Well, now they are actually in the middle of a 35, I think they said $35 million renovation project where they are going to uncover a part of the home where she had quarters that was covered up and turned into a bathroom. So many people did not realize that this area was actually her room that was a couple of feet away from his bedroom. And they had once he was widowed, they had this ongoing relationship. I call it a situationship, really, because he was master and she was slave. So to me, that's not really a choice in a relationship, especially if she was not free. I mean, yeah. So, but the important piece is the fact that they are now choosing to excavate that piece of the building, and they're literally lifting up the restroom that was built to cover up the fact that that was where she was. So I wanted to give you something for President's Day, little tidbit of what is happening in current culture here in the DMV area. And again, that's at Monticello. You can look up the article. You could probably type in President's Mistress bedroom uncovered, and it'll probably pull it up because it is a big deal. All right, so let's go into Pathfinders, the journeys of 16 extraordinary black souls. And today we have for you Mary Bowser. Mary Bowser. Now that isn't Mary Bowser, but that is a drawing from the time that is like depicting what she was. And she was a female spy. Mary Bowser was a female spy. She was born in 1841. Nobody knows exactly when she died, but let's take a look at a little bit about her life that was uncovered. On June 30th, 1995, more than 150 years after her birth, Mary Bowser was inducted into the Military Intelligence Hall of Fame. She was described as one of the highest placed and most productive espionage agents of the Civil War. This woman, whose life is shrouded in mystery, first appears in history on May 17, 1846. On that day, Mary Jane, a colored child belonging to Mrs. Van Loo, was baptized at St. John's Church in Richmond, Virginia, another Virginian, according to the church records. Mrs. Van Loo, a white woman who lived in a mansion on Church Hill, was the widow of a wealthy hardware merchant. Though Mary began life as Van Loo property, by the time she was baptized, the little girl had been given her freedom and practically adopted by Mrs. Van Loo's daughter Elizabeth, no ordinary Southern belle. This maverick sent Mary north to be educated in the late 1840s or early 1850s. In 1855, when Mary was about 15, she was packing her bags for New York. There she boarded a ship bound for Liberia, West Africa, a nation founded by blacks from the States. And that is a dream of mine, to go there, live there, and teach there for quite a bit of time. I'll just put it that way. After about 4 years as a missionary, the young woman returned to Richmond. This was in the winter of 1860, when tensions between the slave states and free states were running high. A year later came the Civil War, and Mary Bowser was soon in the thick of it, helping Elizabeth Van Loo help the Union. Van Loo had been feeding information to the North for a while. After the Civil War broke out, her loyalty to the Union intensified. She expanded her network of pro-Union spies, tapping Mary Bowser to spy on Jefferson Davis, President of the Confederacy. Because Van Loo knew Davis's wife, Varina, she easily finessed a way to get Bowser hired as a servant in the Confederate White House, about a 15-minute walk from the Van Loo mansion. Once in, Bowser played her part to the hilt, pretending to be an idiot. The politicians, military officers, and other whites who visited the Davises invariably regarded black people as ignorant, which can work to your advantage. Please take that nugget. So they didn't have their guard up when Bowser was around. They spoke freely in the presence of this educated woman who reportedly had a photographic memory and total recall of conversations. That would be me. I have a photographic memory, and most of the time I can recall conversations. As Bowser did things like wait at tables, polish furniture, fix fire, and do fireplace fixtures, and tidy the President Davis's office, she stayed on the lookout for letters, reports, any information that the Union could use. Whatever intelligence she gleaned from eavesdropping on conversations and rifling through papers, she passed on to Elizabeth Van Lew. Van Lew then handed that information off to other agents who related to a member of the Union Army. Bowser sometimes slipped away to the Van Lew mansion to deliver intelligence personally. At other times, she sewed dispatches into Mrs. Davis's gowns in need of repair, then dashed to a nearby seamstress, also in the spy network. This woman promptly signaled for Elizabeth Van Lew to stop by her shop. The information Bowser dropped may have ranged from troop movements and supply routes to battle plans and changes in commands. "You've sent me the most valuable information received from Richmond," General Ulysses S. Grant told Elizabeth Van Lew after the war. By then, Mary Bowser was long gone from Richmond. With Van Lew's help, she had been spirited out of the city in early 1865 after she learned that Jefferson Davis reckoned that there was a spy in his house. Bowser had reason to believe that she was the prime suspect. On Sunday, September 10th, 1865, 5 months after the war ended, the New York Times reported that on Monday evening at Abyssinian Baptist Church, then on Waverly Place, a Richmonia Richards, connected with the Secret Service of our government, was to give a talk about her adventures. 2 days later, the New York Tribune reported that Miss Richards spoke of putting her life in peril on many occasions. Few people doubt that this Richmonia Richards, a.k.a. Mary Richards, a.k.a. Mary Jones, a.k.a. Richmonia R. St. Pierre, a.k.a. Mary J.R. Gavin, was Mary Bowser. Wow. So, yeah. She was known as a female spy and a black dispatch who was right in the home of the President of the Confederacy. Somebody shout amen. Woo! Somebody give God glory. Because don't you know, had that war turned out any other way, we would probably still be slaves. Somebody give God praise for Mary Bowser. Because, okay, this is her, the lady who adopted her, who set her free and educated her. Somebody thank God for good white people in the world. Hello, everybody's not a devil. But the reality is Mary Bowser was the one whose skin was on the line, right? So she was right in the thick of being able to hear the directions that were being given, and she had enough wisdom, right, to pass off the information that she needed. And this is why, this is a good word, Monday motivation. This is why you need women, gentlemen, who want to leave women out of everything. Come on. I know I'm talking to somebody this morning. Good. This is one reason why you need women. Women can get into positions that men can't. Hello, somebody. Women can get into a positions that men can't. And because at this particular time, most of the black population was uneducated, they didn't expect her to be educated, right? So that was to her advantage. They didn't expect her to know how to read. So if they're talking around the table or they're looking at maps or planning routes, they didn't expect her to be able to comprehend the information. And so one of my friends said, I read because my ancestors couldn't. Right? I write because my ancestors couldn't. In other words, I'm not going to not take advantage of the things that I can now do because my ancestors couldn't do them. So I think this is an awesome story. I hope that you will share it with your friends. I hope that you will do a little more research, maybe share on your social media today about Mary Bowser, who worked right under their noses to tear down the plans of the enemy. Literally. Hello. She took 2 Corinthians 10, 3 through 5 to a whole other level. Literally, she tore down the plans of the enemy. And as they said, these white supremacists, because that's what they were, regarded black people as ignorant. So they didn't have their guard up when she was around. How many of you know we still have people in this country that regard black people as ignorant? But guess what? You don't have to show all your hand. Just do what you do. Be intelligent. Be motivated. Use your skill. And let them underestimate you. Remember, we talked about that too. They're bad. Exactly. Let them underestimate you. You just use your skill, your knowledge, your understanding that you've gained, and you get the advantage while they're underestimating you. All right? So that's my spiel today on white supremacy. All right. We are going back into our book today, Detours, and today we're talking about the promotion of Detours. We're in chapter 7. So I do believe that we're going to make it through chapter 7 today. Let me put my glasses on so I can see the time here. Excuse me, with my prescription shades. That's what's close to me right now. All right, 11:17. We're doing good on time, and I believe we're going to get through chapter 7. The promotion of Detours. Tony Evans begins by saying, while I was studying and preaching through this topic of detours recently, I got a reminder of what happens on a detour in life. My wife Lois and I were headed back from Denver, Colorado, following a speaking event earlier that morning. It was Saturday, and if you know me at all, you know I don't ever miss a Sunday. Getting back to Dallas was a necessity, and as we boarded the plane in sunny Colorado, I assumed our return home was a sure thing. The plane took off on time, and we were on our way back to our destination, just an hour and 45 minutes away. Yet 2/3 into the flight, the pilot came on the speaker and let us know that storms were brewing in Dallas and we would have to be rerouted to Oklahoma City. Now, Oklahoma City was not in my plans. I had not requested it, desired it, anticipated it, or even thought about it. But something else was in control. And the somebody else who was in control told me I wasn't going where I thought I was headed after all. He proved to be right, and we landed in Oklahoma City. Not only were we in Oklahoma City, but we were stuck on an airplane. They wouldn't pull up to a gate. They wouldn't let us off. We were stuck on the tarmac inside the plane indefinitely. The pilot kept saying it would be another 15 minutes. Then later he would come on and say it's going to be another 20 minutes. 2 hours later, he came back on again and said it would be another 15 minutes. Lois and I were stuck on that plane in Oklahoma City for hours. Finally, after that delay, that seemed to go on forever due to the circumstances out of our control, the pilot came back on and said we were about to take off now to head to Dallas. Relief flooded my body and my mind. I would make it back in time to preach. Gratefully, I buckled up my seatbelt, leaned back, and waited for the short flight to commence. The engines roared, we barreled down the runway, the plane began to take off. And that is when it happened. The plane began to slow down again. You heard me right. The plane slowed down, brakes went to work, and we stayed on the tarmac. The pilot's voice came on a little later. I'm sorry, he said, but new storms have shown up in the Fort Worth area, and so we are not able to take off. It will be another 15 minutes. Now you know. 15 minutes, right. It wasn't 15 minutes. It wasn't even 20 minutes. Another hour later, the pilot came back on and said things had cleared up and we were ready for takeoff again. You can bet I didn't bother to buckle up my seatbelt this time. But the unthinkable happened. The plane actually took off and I was finally on my way back to my destiny, Dallas, Texas, in Oak Cliff Bible Fellowship. Or so I thought. When the plane landed in Dallas, the pilot came back on. You can imagine I was tired of hearing from this pilot by now. Don't we treat God like that? He's speaking to us all through our detour, but we're irritated and we tired of hearing from the pilot. Hello. He said, ladies and gentlemen, I have some good news and I have some bad news. The good news is that we have landed in Dallas. The bad news is that there are no gates available. It will be another 45 minutes to an hour before we can anticipate pulling up to the gate. Somebody say pull up. Oh, this is a good message. Needless to say, I was past the point of evangelically ticked off. It would be more than an hour before we disembarked. Thank you. Pull up. Our short 1 hour and 45-minute trip had turned into a 7-hour ordeal. Take me now, Jesus. That's probably what some of us would have said. 1 hour and 45 minutes turned into a 7-hour ordeal. Now remember, you already know, guys, that my thing is patience. And so every day seems like God gives me some opportunity to exercise that fruit called patience. I can identify with this. I've had holdups that have not been this long, but somewhere in this area. And what I always say to myself is, wherever I'm trying to get to, God is already there. So if I'm not there yet, it's a reason why God is stopping me from getting there. So I have learned to not get frustrated when I feel like I'm wasting time, right? Because one thing that I've learned is sometimes God is keeping us from something that we don't need to intersect with. Does that make any sense? Yesterday, and this is not a time one, but yesterday I put on my garments getting ready for worshiping the Lord. I went to I went to kind of lotion my hands or whatever, and I looked down and I saw some oil on the sleeve of my dress, and I'm like, are you kidding me? So here I am trying to scrub the oil out, and because of the material, and make sure it didn't soak in. And so I was like, okay, I got through that. Then I put on the matching coat that went with the dress. I'm outside. I am on schedule at this point. I'm getting ready to get in my car, and I happen to look at the back side of my coat as I'm pulling it up to get in the car, and I see this big black blotch of something, and I'm like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? So I pull the fabric up and I look at it, and it's ink. It's black ink. I don't know where it came from. I went back into my house and checked. There was nothing on the table. There was nothing on the seat where I was sitting. I have no idea where this big black ink spot came from on the back of my coat. So now I've got to go back inside, put that to the side, try to put a little stain remover on it. It's in the dry cleaners today. But then I had to do what I call a plan B, right? I've had a wardrobe malfunction, and I've got to figure out what I'm going to do. How can I adjust my wardrobe without having to put on something completely different? So I put on another duster, kind of like this one, and it's kind of matches the color scheme I already had going on. So I throw that on, and I get in my car and I take off. Needless to say, thank God for a patient husband. Needless to say, I got to where I needed to go, and I got there not as early as I wanted to, but I was still on time. So why am I saying that? I'm saying that because life happens. There are things that happen in our life that sometimes we don't have control over.